Sure.
Sure? All right.
That's great. Turn the light on. Yeah.
Much better.
Now we see it.
Perfect.
I turned the light on.
Okay.
Before we get all the questions started, can you just, you know, I read to them what you emailed me about your background, but could you give that to them again, and then we can kick off the Q&A?
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Originally, I'm from West Babylon, New York, right there on Long Island. Went to high school in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania, and graduated in 1995. And joined the Navy a month and a half later, and left for boot camp to Great Lakes, Illinois, up in Chicago. I was there for 2 months. From there, I went to Memphis, Tennessee for 3 months for schooling to be an aviation hydraulics mechanic. After that, I went to San Diego. I was stationed on the USS Tarawa. Did 2 deployments on there. I was there for 4 years. From there, I went to China Lake, California, which is up in the middle of nowhere in the desert. I was there for 3 years, and that's where I learned how to work on F-18s. From there, I went to Oceana, Virginia, which is in Virginia Beach. I was there for 5 years, made 3 deployments, 2 on the USS George Washington, the carrier, and I'm sorry, 1 on the George Washington and 2 on the Enterprise. From there, I went back to China Lake, learned about
It's okay. No, you're good.
So, from there, I went to back to China Lake, learned about the F-18 Super Hornet and the E-18 Growler. Left there, went to NAS Lemoore, made 2 cruises with VFA 22, both on the USS Carl Vinson. And recently left there in October and just checked in here to Patch River, Maryland, where I'm part of the staff on the overlooking all the aviation that goes on here in Patch River. So that kind of brings us to now, I guess.
Excellent. I don't know if you can see your ants in the back. I don't know if you...
Can you see me, John? Can you see me?
I see it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? You look great.
Oh, thanks.
So we kind of have an order of the questions. The first questions, set of questions we wanted to ask was, really about how you got involved in the military. So we're going to kick it off. Question 1, I believe, Isaiah, right? The first question.
Yeah.
Right? Guys, make sure you can be seen.
My name's Isaiah. And I'd like to ask, what made you join the military, like Navy?
Kind of a funny story. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do after high school. I was working part-time at a restaurant, and I was working part-time at my dad's car dealership, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My parents like, you have to go to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to study. So my little brother, actually, is a year younger than me, was like, I want to join the Navy. And at the time, actually, my cousin was in the Navy. My cousin Tommy, my Aunt Beezy's son there. And I was like, well, he seems to enjoy it. Why not? So having absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into, I went down to the recruiter's office and said, hey, I'm here to sign up. And signed up for the Navy. And it was one of those things where I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I signed up for it. There's so many different jobs out there that you can do. I mean, any branch of the military, really, there's so much more than anybody really even thinks about. And after my first 4 years, I still didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I stuck around and learned. That's when I started working on F-18s, and I loved it. And found out that completely by mistake, I found out what I loved doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
What is the hardest part of being in the Navy?
Class end already? What happened?
Okay, say it louder.
The hardest part about being in the Navy is deployment, being away. My first deployment, I was a single guy. I was 19 years old. Really didn't think about that kind of stuff. But afterwards, I got married and started having kids and everything. And leaving for 6 to 8 months at a time is the hardest part. Obviously, not physically hard, but emotionally, just getting ready for everything and being on the ship for that long, it can be pretty hard.
How was your overall experience in the Navy?
My overall experience has been good. My wife and son have really stood behind me the whole time and helped me keep getting advanced and stuff. And I guess if it wasn't good, I'm gonna be in almost 20 years, so it was good. I've learned more than I could ever imagine. The people you meet is crazy. I went from living in New York to living in Pennsylvania, and I thought that was a big culture shock until you start meeting people from Texas and Alaska and all that kind of thing. And it's amazing how all these people from all these different cultures can just come together and be a team and make everything happen.
What was the most enjoyable experience for you?
The most enjoyable experience, what?
For you in the Navy.
Most enjoyable experience being in the Navy, obviously, my son being born and my wife and all that kind of stuff is the best thing that's happened to me. But in the Navy, most enjoyable experience, it kind of contradicts my other answer, because being on deployment was the hardest part. It's also the most rewarding and the best part, because you see all these countries. Never did I think I'd be in Thailand or Australia or any of that kind of stuff. Just seeing all these different countries and they pay you to go there, so it's a pretty good deal,
What was your family's reaction when you joined the military before you graduated?
My family's reaction, it was kind of mixed emotions. When my parents were both real happy with it, because although nobody in my immediate family was in the military before, like I said, my cousin was in the Navy, my uncle was in the Navy, both my grandfathers were in the Army. So that's the only experience my family really knew. They just knew, okay, you're going to go somewhere. And my mom was happy I joined the Navy as opposed to the other branches, because I'm going to be on a ship in the middle of nowhere, not in harm's way and all that kind of thing. And then comes time where you actually go to ship out, and then emotions start to, everybody's like, oh, I don't want you to leave. But overall, they've supported me, been proud of me the whole time, and so it was a good reaction. But of course, there's going to be emotions involved.
This student, he's not here, but he's absent today. But I wanted to ask his question for him. He wanted to know how long did you train, and what was it like? What were the details of your training?
Initial training, everybody does is boot camp. It's 2 months long. The Navy's not exactly like Marines and the Army, where everything's just doing PT and jumping over obstacle courses and stuff. We have all that kind of stuff. So about half of it is the physical training, and the other half is learning about ships, learning about aircraft, and then learning how to live on a ship for a period of time is a lot more challenging than you would think, because small compartments, whether you like the people you're around or not, you got to learn to work with them. So that's all, a lot of stuff you got to get used to. Then my professional training for working on aircraft, my initial training was 3 months long. Learning. I've always been interested in mechanics, so the basic mechanic part was, because you'll get some guys that come in the military that to be a mechanic that have never touched a tool or wrench or anything, so they really break it down. So that training takes a while. Well, that was 3 months, just the basic stuff, and then on top of that, every aircraft that you work on, you have to have training on those. So the initial training for those aircraft is mine was 2 months, and that's about the average, about 2 months apiece. But once you get out to the fleet and you're actually working on these aircraft and stuff, your training never ends. I've been in 20 years and I did training today. So it's one of those things that, I joined the Navy because I didn't want to go to school, and I haven't stopped going to school in the last 20 years.
Excellent. All right, we're going to jump to question 8.
I'm questioning.
And Isaiah, this question is about Saddam Hussein.
How you doing, Mr. Puglisi? What responsibilities did you have while Saddam was transported?
I didn't have any extra responsibilities. When he was transported over there, I was working on flight deck, which I was a flight deck shooter, which is the guys that launch the aircraft. If you've ever seen like Top Gun or any of that kind of stuff,
yes.
The guys all different colors on the flight deck. I was one of those guys, and when they brought him on, we didn't have any idea what was going on. They actually secured the flight deck. I mean, they cleared everybody off of there, shut off the cameras that were going there and all that kind of stuff, and we had to get out of the way. We never actually, I saw him as far as walking over there, and I had no interactions with him. But they landed a helo, and a man got out of it. We couldn't identify him because I said we were cleared off the flight deck. But of course, we're curious, so we're kind of peeking, and we just saw a man get out in shackles between his hands and down to his feet with a potato sack over his head.
Wow.
And walk into the flight deck, into the island there, they called the center structure on the flight deck. And then that was it. They told us, okay, we can get back on the flight deck and go back to flying planes. So we did that, and we didn't hear anything else. So it took about 2 or 3 days, and then they did the exact same thing. They shut the flight deck down, and we got off, and we saw a guy in the same ensemble there walk back to a helo and fly off. And then later on that day, we were watching CNN, and it said Saddam Hussein was transported on the George Washington for a trial in America.
Wow. Thank you so much.
No, it was one of the things we were a part of something huge, but we had absolutely no idea, you know.
Did Saddam Hussein ever try to escape?
No, not no. He was, from what I understand, he was held down in the brig, and it's kind of a normal thing when we're over there. A lot of times there's pirates. No, not pirates like with like Captain Jack with big hats and stuff like that. Like kind of actually basically carjacking other little boats over there, you know. So when a lot of times we'll go and intervene with that and capture them and bring them on board and keep them down in the brig on the ship, which is down on the bottom there, and they got master at arms guarding it the whole time. So from what I understand, he was held down there that whole time and then brought back out. Like really didn't have a chance to escape, and if he did, he's got to be a strong swimmer to get anywhere. He's out in the middle of nowhere.
Thank you.
What was the feeling on the ship when you heard Bin Laden was killed?
That was another thing where we actually didn't know all of what was happening until it was happening. We knew there was training going on. They kept how they flew on with the Osprey to bring his body on there. They trained on that for quite a while, so I'm sure all the SEALs and those kind of guys, they knew what was going on, but we just knew we were doing new maneuvers on the flight deck. Then when they actually, again, they did with Saddam Hussein, they shut everything down to where you couldn't really see a lot unless you were directly involved. And but afterwards, again, they shut down email going off the ship and all that kind of stuff, so nobody really knew anything. But then afterwards, everybody got, they would get emails, hey, what happened on the ship and that. It was one of those things where afterwards you were real proud, but the whole evolution, you're trying to just figure out exactly what's going on. Does that answer the question? Or?
Yes, that answer, we're having a little connection difficulty. I think we're all right now. You guys good?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Oh, good. All right. So this is coming from a shy student that is here right now, but she is shy, and she has a great question, and she said, after Bin Laden, after you found out that Bin Laden had been killed, did you or some people on the ship rather have him been put on trial?
That's definitely a good question. That's something that everybody's asked that question. Myself personally, I don't think we're in the position where we could have tried him because of how they had to capture him and you know all the force that was put into getting there. It's one of those things I think with Saddam Hussein, they had the opportunity to capture him and bring him back for a trial, but with Bin Laden, they didn't have that opportunity. So rather than keep chasing him, I'm glad we did what we did.
Thank you. Question 13?
Have you ever disagreed on a mission you were on?
I don't think I ever disagreed on a mission. Of course, I disagreed with the orders that I was given to do, but they're not requests, they're orders, so you do them. As far as mission-wise, no, I haven't actually, never looked at it, I've never had to deal with that.
We skipped someone here. My fault. Eric?
Were you able to see him being dropped into the ocean, and what was he wrapped in?
Yes, actually, I was on the flight deck crew for the burial at sea. It was he asked what he was wrapped in.
Yeah.
So there was like, I guess according to their religion, the Muslim religion or whatever, that wrapped them in ceremonial cloths and all that kind of stuff. He was wrapped in some kind of blankets. I assume it was those ceremonial cloths, and dumped over the side.
Could you, would you be able to give us a little more, because the kids are really interested on, from the time the body came onto the ship to the time the body was placed in the ocean, what transpired on board?
It wasn't very long. It's one of those things that we do in the Navy. We hurry up and wait. Is what we say a lot, because they trained on the one aircraft, the Osprey. Has never been on a carrier, so for that thing to land there was a big deal. So they trained on that for a couple of weeks, and we just thought it was routine training. Then when he actually was brought on board on that aircraft, total evolution took less than 30 minutes. He was brought on. They cleared the back of the aircraft, the carrier. On elevator number 4 is where he was buried off of, which is, if you're looking forward on the ship, on the port side, the left side, all the way back aft. So he was taken off of the aircraft. They had a flight deck equipment called a tow tractor that we used to move the aircraft, and on the back there's kind of like a little pickup bed, and had him on there, brought him over to the elevator. He was cleaned, which is also part of their the Muslim burial traditions. That, from what I was told, I don't know. So he was cleaned, wrapped in the cloth and all that.
Please contact the office.
I was basically just a safety observer, but so I wasn't involved in all that. It's kind of oversaw the whole thing. He was cleaned, wrapped. Chaplain was there and said some things, and then he was buried at sea. It said then the aircraft, when it landed, once he was taken away from the aircraft, it took back off. So it said the whole evolution was less than 30 minutes.
Thank you. Next question. Those are all the questions? All right, so those were all our questions that we prepared. Is there anyone in the class that wants to add a follow-up question?
Before you said you didn't really know what you wanted to do with your life, and then you just started to do the Navy, but during this whole thing, did you think of a different profession or something?
I have actually. It's one of because I'm getting close to retirement from the Navy. I'm in be 20 years in July, so after 23 years is when I'm going to retire. So been thinking about what I'll do afterwards, and of course the whole time you're in the Navy, and I think every guy or girl does it as they're coming through. The whole time to think about what they're going to do outside the Navy and what would they do. So a lot of guys, I know a lot of guys that got out and they were, after having a little military experience, police officer is always a big one, or fireman or that kind of thing. So I've thought about actually both of those professions. Thought about doing either one of those. But myself, personally, I'm really into old cars and hot rods and stuff, so I'd like to, when I retire, I plan on not doing anything with aircraft or anything with military, and opening a hot rod shop and just do what I love.
I have a question. So how has your life changed since you did these like 2 significant things? Like, what's changed since then?
And my life really, it's one of those things that all that training comes into play. Things don't really change. It's just you go and do the job that you're asked to do, and kind of just carry on. It's not. I mean, there's things, of course, every time there's any kind of significant thing like that, or if somebody's ever injured or anything like that, part of your team or whatever, they offer counseling and that kind of stuff. Luckily, I've never been in a position where I had to accept any of that. But there's it's that the whole training thing really comes into play, and you look at it as being a job, not as just you gotta do what you gotta do.
I have one more question for you. Were you ever like apprehensive about like what you were involved in, like as far as like carrying Bin Laden's body and like doing all that stuff? Like were you ever?
The whole thing with Bin Laden, and I think that part of the reason that Navy does things the way they do it, they keep you in the dark until you're needed to perform, so you don't have time to get apprehensive about it. You just do it. Afterward, you have you kind of think about stuff and dwell on it a little bit, and that's where a lot of guys will talk to counselors and stuff to kind of get stuff off their chest. But personally, any situation I've been in, I've never really had any concerns where I would be apprehensive. I mean, you're kind of being on the flight deck. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. So it's actually first time you get up there, I was pretty nervous for the first week or so, and then every time I go on a detachment after that, I'll be a little nervous for the first day or so. And I think that's the kind of thing that keeps you on your edge, keeps you sharp. So I don't ever think it's apprehensive. We just kind of think it's the way it is.
Yeah.
So you're getting settled in Maryland. Do you know where your next deployment will be? Are you aware of that yet?
Actually, no. We have a sea-shore rotation, and it goes by rank and how long you've been in, that kind of stuff. But my sea-shore rotation right now is 3 years sea time and 3 years shore duty. I just finished my 3 years sea time. Like both times I was in China Lake doing the training on the new aircraft, that was shore duty, and then of course the deployments were sea duty. So right now I'm on shore duty, where I'm on the staff at they call the wing, the Naval Test Wing Atlantic. Basically, we oversee all the test aircraft, all the stuff that's coming out to the fleet, things we've never seen before. Some things we'll never see in the fleet because it just doesn't work. But so I'm being on the staff there. I do all the inspections and on the aircraft and on all the programs to support the aircraft. So for the next 3 years, I won't be leaving Maryland. Just pretty happy about that.
We didn't get to ask this, but what is your official title in the Navy?
I'm a Chief Petty Officer.
Chief Petty. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Anybody else have any other questions? Any of the adults have any questions?
How are you? Thanks for joining us, Skyping, and thanks for all you do for our country. Any of these kids interested in the military, what was one piece of advice you might give them if they might have some interest joining the Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force? What would you tell them?
I think it's a great career move. Whether you want a career or you want to do 4 years and get a bunch of college money. My experience has been, I was the guy that was going to do 4 years and get out of the Navy. Here I am 20 years later. So talk to people, but don't take everybody's word for things, because a lot of people. You have a lot of guys who've been in the military and get out, and they might have had a bad experience, and 9 times out of 10 that's caused by the guy that had a bad experience. So if any of you guys are actually thinking about it, your teacher has my email. You guys can email me, ask me questions, that kind of stuff. I'm more willing to help you guys out. And before I joined the Navy, I actually talked to the other recruiters also. So I talked to the Army recruiter, and then decide on the Navy. But so look at all your options. You know, definitely don't just say, well, you know, my dad was in the Army, so I want to join the Army, because it might not be what's for you. So definitely look at all your options. And if you do decide to join the military, when you're in the military, make sure you concentrate on the military and the civilian, because you want to be able to when you do decide to get out, you get out on your own accord. You're you're set up for success in the military, or you're set up for success in the civilian world. You know, and all the services have great programs to make sure that you're set up for both.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, we thank you so much for Skyping with us. It's my first Skype experience.
Really?
Yes. It's sad. It's sad.
He's a young guy.
My first. So we really appreciate it. And Sabrina, you wanted to say something in closing?
You can say it.
No, Sabrina, come
No,
on. You got this.
No,
Are you shy all of a
All
sudden?
of a sudden, we have shy people in this class.
So thank you very much for doing this. You informed a lot of us, and you answered a lot of our questions. So once again, thank you for what you do as far as military, for benefiting us. Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody try to get that face in so you can thank Mr. Puglisi.
Thank you. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Is it going to be at sea?
You too.
Where he's just walking around. But he's on the
Oh, no problem. I'm just gonna do it.
It's just me, okay? Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it so much. And,
No problem.
you know, this is really good for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Take care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hang up.
All right.
Guys, that was great. I loved watching you.